Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Doctor Who Review, episode 133. Well, we are here discussing the penultimate story of two major things in this one. One is the penultimate story for season 9, which is known as Mutants. That was 63rd the story of this one. It is also the penultimate story for John Pertwee's run to review. Yes, the very next one that comes after this one is going to be the last one. And with that one, we finished with 1970s. So, this one's interesting, to say the least. So, season 9, still the period of time during Doctor's exile. It only took the first 3 seasons of John Pertwee's 5-year run of the show. It took until his 10th season, basically. It took 10th season show to basically lift the exile. So, the Doctor and Joe are at unit headquarters, as the episode starts off, where they're given a device, and they go inside a TARDIS, which, by the way, we don't see the interior here. Nope, does not appear at all. They just go in, and the TARDIS ends up on a place known as Skybase 1, which is ran by a marshal, which, given his voice, I'm thinking this guy must have played a Centauran at some point. And you're probably thinking, did he? Did the Marshal play a Centauran? Sadly, no. You would think with his voice, he would have, but he never did. Oh, by the way, he passed away in 1974. And this story was released in... It was released from April 8th to May 13th of 1972. So he passed away 2 years after the story wrapped up. I'm guessing that some of it must take inspiration from him, per se. So, there's this planet called Solas. Apparently, this was an allegory to Native Americans being, I guess, European settlers. And the Marshall's people, who are from Earth, they mentioned that Earth is basically gray and covered in highways, and the cities are gray. What exactly happened to Earth is not very clear. They don't show Earth here. And so, Solas is a planet, which they spend time there, and also Skybase, where the planet is barely breathable for humans. The people of Solas, they can breathe no problem. It just if humans go down there, they have to go down with an oxygen mask because they're not breathable. So the Marshal, his whole thing, he wants to make the planet habitable for humans. And also, he has it where his people are killing mutants. You're thinking, killing mutants? Is he? Now, his whole thing, he thinks the mutated people of the planet are evil and must be killed, and he'll do anything to basically do that. By the way, this thing was actually 6 parts. Yes, 6 parts. So basically, he wants to continue what he's doing. He thinks he's making progress, and then he's informed by the administrator that no, Marshall, you are being sent to someplace else because we are leaving this planet, and the reason. Financial reasons and the fact the planet is useless to Earth and we need to basically rethink ourselves. So the Marshal strategizes to murder man with basically the natives. Having the guy's son murder the administrator and blame and just despite the fact he conspired to kill the administrator, he basically thought that the native basically killed him. Despite the fact they wanted independence. Basically they begged for it. They wanted to leave. Yeah. So, and of course the guy attempts to flee. The Doctor shows up with his device, and he thinks that possibly, like, oh, maybe it's for the, what they call the Overlord, the humans. No, it's not for them. Is it for this older warrior? No, it's for this guy called Kai, where he touched it, and then the thing opens. We later find out, like, they think it might be weapons. Oh no, it's tablets. Yes, and thanks to a scientist they later find in the story, it's discovered that these tablets are actually the planet's calendar, and it's also discovered the planet's seasons last 500 years, and apparently it takes, get this, for the planet Solas to orbit its sun, because Earth does it in 1 year. In the case of the planet Solas, it takes them 2,000 years to orbit their sun. I'm like, is this planet very slow? And apparently, since they've been there, it's always been spring. And there's also been experiments in the planet. They've been trying 500. They've been trying for a long time to make the planet habitable, but it just seems like nothing is working. So the Marshal makes excuses, and then we have later on when there's an investigator coming by. I thought this was the Master, because of course we did the same thing with his later story, where he would try to stir up war. No. This isn't the Master. He's not back yet. He's not back until the very next story. Which I would have thought this would have been, given the fact he was freed in Sea Devils, and then he returns in the very next story. So then Joe goes on the planet, and eventually the Doctor goes down there too, and they find this crystal, and then turns out the mutation is actually premature. The ones basically happen in the episode, they're premature. So the actual evolved beings of them are these enlightened people who can speak telepathically, and then Kai basically gets exposed to the radiation and the crystal. He becomes his new mutant form, and the first thing he does is kill the Marshal. Because, like, I'm getting sick and tired of you torturing people. And he kills him. And the investigator's like, that's fine. I have no problem with that at all. We also have this particular guard who knows about the room, basically radiation. You're thinking, how would a guard know about radiation in this room? I am sure that all the guards of Skybase, this is my person, it's the same thing happened with, in the case Force Awakens, where something like this is probably something all guards are debriefed on when they first arrive. That is my personal guess of how he knows about the room and the radiation, how much time, and the fact that when the investigator ship got there, he probably had to refuel anyways. So, and also the fact that Marshall really wanted to kill these people so badly because they dare stood in his way. And then when mutants came on board the station, they're like, oh, these things are evil. We have to kill them. Despite the fact this is actually normal for them. It's not some disease. So, eventually people will sort of mutate the correct way. Off screen, mind you. And then the black leader who was there. So with him, who was a very nice guy, very helpful, he's later named the acting marshal of the place, just to give him time to evacuate. Basically, so they give the lead of the planet on its own. And, well, the mutants themselves, they most been flashbacks after this. But I'm sure, given how much build they have this for this inspector, right now in the story here, it's a random guy. I would not have been surprised, given what I saw in Colony in Space. Well, excuse me, Frontier in Space with, I think it was with the Falling Season show, where they had the Master become sort of this high official. I wonder if basically this is planned to be a Master story. But my guess is basically Roger got maybe busy. That's my personal guess. I'm not info the matter. It's like this is supposed to be something really big, but not really. Also, something interesting about this story. This is the two interesting fun facts for the story. One, Jo Grant is the only woman seen in the entire story. You think, that's weird. Yes. Also, this is the only story in the entire season 9 that does not have a returning character or a returning monster. You're like, that's interesting. Yes. I do like this. Now, the special effects, some don't hold up. Like, some shots that go like this village, it's just terrible looking. Like, this was 1970s, mind you. The green screen looks terrible. It's like the camera shots in some areas look so bad. But it's the time. I'd say the acting was pretty much on point. The martial was over the top. I think the actor did a pretty good job to make him a very despicable man. And what happened to him was perfectly fine. I have no problem with that kid being killed by one of the characters. The Doctor surprisingly doesn't use his martial arts very much, surprisingly, this one. Yeah, the John Pertwee one is known for using martial arts. He is one of two to ever do this, to use martial arts. Guess who the other one is to use the martial arts? After John Pertwee left the show, the martial arts aspect of the Doctor would not be revisited until Jodie Whittaker, in her like third or fourth episode she appeared in. She actually used the very martial arts John Pertwee used in practically almost every episode. I think he used like one episode the whole time. Yeah. But is this a terrible story? No, it's actually quite fun. Do I think basically the 6 episodes was necessary? Do I think it was fluff? Not really, no. It moves at a pretty good pace. It's very action-packed. I think the 6 episodes was necessary. Like, I would say there's no slow pacing here, surprisingly. You would think normally would be, but nope. It's perfectly fine. So, also, I did find this interesting. So, the guy directed this, Christopher Berry, he would not direct the story again for Doctor Who after John Pertwee left. The reason is because those two have bad blood over what happened during the course of Demons, which capped the previous season's show. Apparently, these two did not get along, and this one it's still not improved. So he's like, "I'm not going to do anything with this show until he leaves," which he leaves 2 seasons later. But it's nice still the fact I'm kind of back to this, so I'm still going to do more. Yeah. Yeah. So I do plan basically to do more stories. I'm still going to do more Doctor Who stuff, despite basically I'm still doing some anime stuff. So, but the next one is going to be, next year is going to be, well, Adventures Grind in 29. Yes. And afterwards be Comic Corner, and then pretty much be right back to, go back to that, do my Comic Corner, do the next couple episodes. And then I do have one more Comic Corner ready to go. And then back to the last couple episodes and cap that off and then start up another anime. Which one? You'll find out and see. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Also, before I leave, what rating do I give the Mutants? I give this one roughly a 9 out of 10. It was I thought it was a really good story. I don't know how anybody else felt about this story. If anybody basically has ever seen the story for Doctor Who, the second to last story for season 9, the John Pertwee story, feel free to leave comments below. Also, the beginning is the only time we see President Earth. The entire story. Like, there's no going back. They actually go back to present day at the end of the story, but there's no unit here per se. Just the only person we see the story is Joe Graham. That's it. So, next video, Adventures of Grind 29. Okay, next video. Bye.